TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Hey gang, it's Friday and welcome to In the Batter's Box. My name is Scott Webb and welcome in. I wasn't here yesterday, so glad to be back. Love Friday, and to be quite honest, I don't think I've been as excited about a baseball card for a little while. My opinion, there's quite a bit to talk about today. So hopefully we get some people on here today so that we can share some information. So something major happened yesterday in Major League Baseball. We got time. It's 6:20 or 6:18, and I think the first game of the night doesn't go until like 6:40, and I'm not betting that game anyway. Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, where don't have a whole lot to talk about there other than Abbott got scratched, so it's going to be a bullpen game for Cincinnati. But so I'm not really going to go there. So we have until 7:00 ish is game time. So I got a second to talk about this, and I think it's an important thing. So when a manager gets fired, there's a lot of circumstance that goes with that, and a lot of different things that happens. And it's a little bit different in baseball than it is in like football when a head coach gets fired in the season and then they put some guy in there that is a defensive coach or the offensive coach or something that's kind of running the team for a little bit. Well, this is the Seattle Mariners yesterday. They fired their manager, Scott Service. Now, what's interesting about this, and then in terms of doing a little bit more homework and research and a little bit of understanding on the situation. I don't want to say he was a militant manager because that's not really the right way to say it, but he was a Sabermetrics banana. And not that I'm not, but I mean, he was crazy Sabermetric guy. He's certainly a big matchups guy, right hand, left hand matchups, that kind of thing. And his lineups really never changed a whole lot. And I don't think that, he hired coaches that actually coach. And I say that in a way that, your staff as a manager, as a manager, you're not out there doing all the coaching. You hire coaches to coach, right? So you got a hitting coach, you got pitching coaches, you got a bench coach, you got an infielders coach, you got a positioning coach, you got all kinds of different coaches, bullpen coach. So if your coaches aren't developing people and your coaches aren't making your team better, that falls on the manager, right? So Scott Service had a lot going against him, and to be quite honest, he was a personal friend to the general manager, and that's probably why he hung around as long as he did. So not sure what you guys know about the guys that replaced him, but Dan Wilson is now the new manager. He's not an acting manager. He is the manager. He's replacing Scott Service. Now, what's the importance of Dan Wilson? One, anytime you have a former player that played for the team that's now the coach, and he was a beloved player. Dan Wilson was part of the teams that had King Griffey Jr. and Edgar Martinez and Tino Martinez and Jay Bueller and the guys, Randy Johnson and the teams that went to the playoffs and back 15 years ago. And he was the catcher. So catchers make great managers, and that's because they know pitching staffs and they know all the different ins and outs, and they're in charge of the on-field manager role anyway. They where position players go, and they kind of help with all that stuff. So, but he's been a special assistant to the team, and he's been in the broadcast booth too. So he's been around the Mariners. So he's followed the team, and he's seen all the different things that have been going on with the team. So it's not like he's jumping into a situation he doesn't know anything about. So he's a beloved former player. The fan base loves him already, and the team will bond to him quickly. That's number one. Number two, his first thing that he did, he got rid of the hitting coach, and he brought in a former Seattle Mariner hitting coach, who I believe, if my memory is right, he was the first, or maybe the only, and I don't know what, maybe Poppy's there now, but Edgar Martinez is now the hitting coach for the Seattle Mariners, and he's a Hall of Fame hitter. So he might be he was the first, I know he was the first only designated hitter to be elected to the Hall of Fame, and now he's in charge of the hitting as a coach, and I guarantee you people will listen to a guy that's a Hall of Fame player hitter as opposed to whoever was there before. So that's number two. So number three, you get a sense that the morale, the enthusiasm, the energy, it's all going to change. They're going to be a team that's going to be a little bit remotivated, right? So I'm kind of excited about what to see from this team, and when I saw, and I'm going to see if I can pull this up real quick because I should have it right here. Sometimes I'm pretty good about being able to find stuff. Sometimes maybe not. But let's go to my profile on Twitter, because I did hit a like here so I could go back and get this. So the Seattle Mariners, or maybe I just did it as a retweet. Let's see. Profile. There we go. Maybe it's in here. There we go. So what they've been doing is they have had Robles as the leadoff hitter playing center field. They've been kind of bouncing around with the second place hitter. Sometimes it's been Rodriguez. Sometimes they move him down and bat him sixth or fifth or seventh or wherever. And Rosarena bats somewhere around, sometimes sixth, sometimes fourth, sometimes second. So they've been kind of doing some stuff. So this lineup has Rayleigh leading off, playing first base. Now, I don't know what you guys know about Rayleigh, but Rayleigh's a former Tampa Bay Ray. Obviously, I know him from being down here. And he's a pretty consistent hitter, pretty good swing, left-handed bat. And him batting in the first spot is kind of not unique, but it's a little different. And it's different in a sense that he's not a strikeout guy. And a lot of these guys are strikeout guys. So if he can get on base, that's going to help this team. And then they're batting Julio Rodriguez second, which probably makes a little bit of sense. And then they're batting Cal Raleigh third. He's got a low batting average, but hits for power. And then Rosarena fourth. So I kind of like how that structure works. And then they have Polanco, and then Haniger. Canzone's been pretty good for them. Rojas, and Riva. So it's an interesting new lineup that they have put forth, and I kind of like the momentum shift. I kind of like a little bit about what they're doing today, and I'm really interested to see how this team responds to a new manager in a new situation. So much so that I'm going to make them a bet today. Well, we'll get to that part of it later, but they are going to be Seattle Mariners a bet today for lots of different reasons other than just what I just went over. But that's one of the things that you want to look for and pay attention to is is when you have a managerial change, a lot of times the players feel bad for the manager that's gone too, and they feel a little bit of responsibility, and they want to show sort of to the new guy, hey, look, I'm a pretty good player and blah, 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 even though they got a full season of stats and the guy already knows who they are and all that stuff. So we'll see how that plays out. So I thought that was interesting. And another note that I was interested in is in Arizona today. They've got a pitching problem. They've got 6 starting pitchers, and they're coming down the stretch where they're trying to catch the Dodgers. They're trying to stay ahead or at least up with the Padres. They're in the playoff picture right now, and they're trying to stay that way. But their very best pitcher, especially over the last 30 days and probably the last, I would almost say 60 days, has been Ryan Nelson. It's not their normal, quote, guys that they have, which is Fad and Montgomery and Erod and Merrill Kelly, right? They got all of those guys and Gallen. So that's where their problem comes in. They got those 5 guys, and then they got to figure out, what am I going to do with Ryan Nelson? Ryan Nelson's sort of the odd man out. Well, you can't have him be the odd man out if he's the best pitcher you've had over the last 60 days. So today, the announcement came that Montgomery, the guy they signed as a free agent, hasn't done real well this whole season, but he's getting a little better. He's now going to the bullpen. So that makes sense to me. And I think that this team now structurally with their 5 guys is in a pretty good spot. And as long as they keep hitting, this is a team that's pretty dangerous again. Taking them a long time to get there. There for a little while, I wasn't too sure they were even going to make a playoff run, but holy crap, them and the Padres I think those guys are in there. Let me see. They've got a pretty good spot right now, standings. And if I go to wild card and we look at the standings list for these guys, come on, there they are. So you got Dodgers, Phillies, Brewers, right? Those are the division leaders. And then you got Diamondbacks, Padres, Braves. Diamondbacks are 3.5 games up. And then Padres 3 games up. Braves are in. And then the next team out is the first team out is the Mets. They're 1.5 out. And then the Giants are 4 games out. So that's another whole team nightmare problem that I don't understand. My thought is the Mets, they were ready to give up, and you make a few deals, right, for if you're the Giants, and you bring over, Alonso, and you bring over, who knows, take the contract of the goofy closer that, is having so much issues, bring those 2 guys in and give them whatever they need on the backside of that. And then you don't have a first baseman over there for San Francisco. And then all of a sudden San Francisco's got a better offense. And then their pitching's been halfway decent. They got some pitchers still coming, and I think they could have made a pretty good run to try to make it to the playoffs. But they didn't do all that stuff, so no point in going that route. So we'll see where they end up. But as far as I'm concerned, these playoffs, these teams still have to stay winning, but I think they're not going to see a ton of movement here. You might see seeding differences. For example, I still think Cleveland's not going to win their division. And to be honest, I think they're going to have to fight like hell just to even make the playoffs. They don't have pitchers. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with how everything progresses and how it all goes. But let's talk about some of these games now that we've sort of hit some of that. We've got a few people on, I think there's like 40, 45 people on here right now. So let's hit some of these games and let's talk about them now. This first game that I'm going to talk about, it's a 7:05 start. And I think you're going to see a little bit of line movement go against it here. And maybe to a certain degree, rightfully so. But let me slide this over here so that we can talk about it for a second and see what the numbers are right now. So this is Houston and Baltimore, 705. 909 Those are your rotation numbers. This is Brown against Povich. All right. So first thing is my number on this game that kind of sets me into where I want to figure out what I want to do. My number on this game is Houston minus 116. And when I went on the show today and I updated the numbers right before the show, it was Houston minus 116. When I bet the game at Houston minus 113. So not a lot of value, but I bet it that way. But there's a reason for all of that. So let's start looking at what I saw that creates this issue. If I can pull up the right information here, we can get to it. Let's see. There's the pictures. So let's bring you over here. So let's start with situationally. You have Brown on the mound for Houston. Now, he struggled at the very beginning of the season, and we're not. This is another good segue. This is why you don't use full season data. You use segmented data, right? So at the beginning of the season, he couldn't get anybody out. He was the first, I would say, 9 starts. He wasn't very good at all. But now he's made 24 starts. He's 12-12. Okay, well, he's gotten all those bad starts out of the way. He's been doing pretty good. In fact, his SOPS plus, right? So SOPS plus, we're talking about how the pitcher controls the opponent's offense here. He's a 68. That means he's 32% better than an average pitcher. That's pretty damn good, 32%. In fact, there's only like 2 or 3 pitchers better than him today. So out of the 30 pitchers, he's in the top 4. That's really good. So you want to be betting on pitchers that are controlling the opponent's offense, and that's what he does. Cade Povich on the other side is a 103, so he's 3% worse than an average pitcher, which is basically average. So now you got an average pitcher versus a good pitcher, right? So now we have a dynamic there. Then when I started to look at Cade Povich has made 9 starts for the Orioles, and he's kind of one of those guys that got called up because they had some injury issues and Bradish went down, and then they had some problems with Kramer, and Povich maybe wasn't ready, but he's a young kid, so they brought him up. He's made 9 starts and sporadic starts. They had him kind of going there for a little bit, and what ended up happening? He's 3-6 in those 9 starts. He's only won 3 times. He wins 1 out of every 3 times he pitches. So I like the idea that you've got a good pitcher with at least a 50% chance right off the top against a pitcher that's struggled. He's an average pitcher at best, and he only wins 1 out of every 3 times he pitches. So those things are already favoring the Houston Astros. And then when I start to look at it from a pitcher's perspective, I go over and I see a 609 and a 583 xFIP in Sierra for Povich. So that's obviously worst 25% in all of baseball in the last 30 days. So that's terrible. And then his whip rate's 1.69, batting average against a 283. His strikeout rate is 5.91. He doesn't strike anybody out. And not only that, he's got a 4.22 walk rate. So he's putting guys on base. Balls are in play. He's not getting outs. They're hitting him, and guys are getting on base. So I sit there and I go, all right, what does he do good? Well, his ground ball rate's 28%. That's the worst 25% in baseball. And if you're not going to get a lot of outs, you at least want ground balls because if you have ground balls, they're not home runs. But that's not the case. He's 28.2, so he's got a lot of fly balls. But he hasn't given up a home run. He's only saving grace. He hasn't given up any home runs. So we'll see what happens tonight. His WPA, so winning percent added, add up all his good pitches, add up all his bad pitches. He makes more bad pitches than he does good ones. So he's a minus 24. minus 2.4, I should say. And Brown, he's a plus 0.71, one of the best pitchers in baseball when it comes to not making mistakes. So now you have a guy in Brown, 2.64 xFIP against a 609 xFIP. That's almost 4 runs. It's really over 3 runs. You got a 3-run advantage in the pitchers. And then when you start to think about it, he doesn't give up home runs either. He strikes out 10.5 guys per 9 innings, so less balls in play. So the edges are really starting to stack up for Houston. So, all right, let's see what they look like on offense. Well, Houston offensively, they're 9th in Major League Baseball right now. Now, I will say this. 9th doesn't mean a whole lot because offensively, there's not very many teams that are hitting. Most of the teams are not hitting. It's been much to do about pitching. So if you get a big, significant edge on offense, that's a big deal. And there's an edge here, but it's not significant edge. So they're 9th on offense. They're 11% better on weighted runs created plus. So they're 11% better in average offense. And the Baltimore Orioles, they're 17th on offense. So there's not a significant difference there, though, because they're minus 11% to an average team on weighted runs created plus. So you got one team is 11 plus 2, get 10% better, 10% worse. Not too much different than average. I mean, they are a little bit different. Runs per game, they're a little bit, both of them are a little bit over 4. So they're not scoring dramatically. So the other issue that comes to play here, Houston, their bullpen's been pretty good. They've thrown 44 innings, only allowed 22 hits. So that's 22. That's half. That's pretty good. And then when you look at Baltimore, they've been decent, but Baltimore's given 40 innings, 34 hits. But then there's 34 hits. 10 of them are home runs. They can't close down the game the same way Houston does. So now you have a starting pitcher edge, got maybe a slight edge on offense, and then you got a back end edge too. And you're talking about just being small favorites. The only issue that I ran into, and it just happened, it wasn't something that happened, but probably the best hitter for the Astros, Yordan Alvarez, he got scratched, so he's not in the lineup. Now, having said that, they still have Bregman, they still have Alvarez, they still have Diaz, and when you look at their offense currently, the guy you want to make sure that is the guy that's carrying their offense right now is Diaz. Diaz is 3.7 offensive WAR over the last 7 days. So he's the big hitter for them right now. Yordan Alvarez wasn't, he's just a big scary guy and can turn it around at any time. But Povich is a lefty. So I did like the idea too, if I can get back to where I was, that, in the last 20 games, the Astros are making a run. They're 14-6 in the last 20 games. And the Orioles are 9-11. So, they're playing more 500-ish baseball. So anyway, I think this is a good value. I think it's a good play. And I think what you're getting is you're getting a good pitcher in Brown, and you're getting a call-up pitcher at best in Povich. And when I make the numbers and make the lines and all that, and I'm looking at the projected WAR for these guys, Brown's a 3. That's pretty good. I mean, your best in baseball right now is a 6, and that's Chris Sale. He's pitching later tonight. There's a couple guys at 5. There's like a handful of guys at 4 and above. So 3 is pretty good, right? I mean, he's in the top 30 pitchers of all of baseball, Brown. And then when you talk about Povich, he's a 0.1. So what does that mean? That means he is the equivalent to a AAA call-up level pitcher. Well, that's what he is. He's a AAA call-up pitcher. He's not better than that. I'll take my shot here, and I'll take the Houston Astros in this position because I think that's the right way to go. Now, I'm going to talk about a couple other spots that I didn't bet that I think might be a pretty good spot, and take them how you want. But I like the Cubs today. The problem that I'll tell you what issues I may have run into with them. Where's Chicago? The Cubs are minus. Are they really minus 118? Cubs. Hendricks. Yeah, 117, 119. So they're minus 118. Cubs are minus 118 against Miami. So think about this. The Cubs are a 500-ish team. And power rating wise, they're just a smidge over that, so they're like 83 wins. The Marlins, they are the second worst team in the National League. The worst team is the Rockies, and then you have the Marlins. And the Marlins are throwing Meyer today. And Max Meyer, at the beginning of the season, he's one of these guys that, okay, he's a stud young kid. He's going to be really good. Okay, well, he's not. Maybe at the beginning of the season, he threw 4 games and it was really good. He was 4-0 in all those starts. It was great. They sent him back to the minor leagues to try to save his arm and wear and tear so they could use him now. Well, they brought him up now, and he's 0-4 in his last 4 starts. And not only is he 0-4, he is ridiculously bad. If I go to my SOPS Plus for Max Meyer, he's a 184. 184. That means he's 84% worse than an average pitcher. How can you be 84% worse than an average pitcher? That's not very good at all. So that tends for me to think the Cubs can probably hit him. But when I started looking at numbers and data and kind of looking at everything as it goes out, Hendricks has made 17 starts this season. He's only won 6 times. So he's 6-11. So that doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies. However, when I'm looking at value, I think the Cubs at a over 500 team against a rotten, terrible Marlins team and Max Meyer, who's been performing really bad, 184 is really bad. Somehow you got to find a way to take advantage of that. And I couldn't find it because they're against right-handed pitching. And, I said this the other day. I wanted to thank one of the guys that walked me through how to get up the last 30, 45 days or whatever time frame you want on teams against right-handed, left-handed back. So it was great. Walked me through it, gave me all the step-by-step. Ken did, right? So Ken, I appreciate that. And I'm using it, right? So they're 14% worse than an average team against right-handed pitchers. Well, that's not very good. So that sets me back just a second to sit here and go, well, maybe I should look at this a little differently. So that was the first step of the process. Then I went and looked at where are these guys at? Well, Meyer, 4.89, 4.69 xFIP and Sierra. Okay, well, it's not as bad as what Povich was, but he's still in the worst 25% of baseball, which tells you how bad Povich was. If you're 4.89, and that's yellow, meaning in my report, that it's the worst 25% of baseball, and he's a 609, and that means you're 1.2 worse. Holy cow. You're almost dead last. So Meyer's in the worst 25% of baseball. Strikeout rate is average. Walk rate is average. 2.7 home runs per 9 innings. Holy crap. He's almost allowing as many home runs as he walks guys. That's terrible. So the Cubs can probably do a lot of damage. So think about that, right? Meyer's got a 1.76 whip rate, so almost 2 guys per inning. Batting average against is 330. He is the second worst guy on my list today in WPA. So he's a minus 0.94. He makes mistakes like right and left compared to good pitches. So if we go to the offense, what we need to look at is the Cubs. The Cubs offensively are 19th, but this is where things really change, right? So there's a couple things. So they're 19th. I get that. So that means, and they're minus 20% weighted runs created plus. Well, how are they doing certain things? Because they actually are playing pretty decent baseball in the last 20 days, 20 games. They're 12-8. That's not bad. And the Marlins are 7-13. So that, they're still not winning. So when you look at it from that perspective, and then you go and say, well, what's going on with this team? Well, the difference is isolated power. So remember, isolated power is what the offenses are exactly trying to do. They're trying to get a guy on base, then they're trying to hit an extra base. They're trying to hit a double. They're trying to hit a triple. They're trying to hit a home run. They're trying to do damage, right? You've seen these guys swing in the bats. You remember back in the day when I probably had blonde hair and not gray hair, that guys would go up there and just try to slap the ball in certain places and hit it directionally so that they can move bases, move runners, get hits, do different things to propel an offense, right? Because they wanted to get guys on base. The more guys they had on base, the more opportunities they had to score runs. That's still true today. The difference is that guys today don't do it that way. That they swing out of their shoes every single time. Every single time. They're ripping, what they call it, grip it and rip it. So they're trying to hit the ball over the fence. And when you look at what a team is doing, and Chicago is 8th, that's pretty damn good when their offense ranks 19th. So they're scoring because they are hitting doubles. They are hitting home runs, and they're facing a guy that's given up almost 3 home runs per 9 innings. So I think they can take advantage there. So it's not a bad deal. It's minus 118. Your biggest issue has got to be in your head is, holy shit, who's pitching for the Cubs? Kyle Hendricks. Oh my God. Well, that guy throws the ball 70 miles an hour. Well, here's an interesting thing that you might want to think about. So I talk about stuff plus and I talk about pitcher plus, right? So stuff plus is how a pitcher's arsenal gets measured. So what is his spin rate? What is the movement on the ball? Vertically, horizontally? What's his velocity? What is his delivery in his arms, the stretch of his arm and all that stuff? All that stuff gets measured in what's called pitcher plus. A good score in pitcher plus is 100. And Hendricks is a 92. So he's below average, which you figure that. I mean, he's 80 million years old, right? So you figure he's below average there. But what's interesting is you have stuff plus and then a category called pitcher plus. So pitcher plus is the ability that the pitcher takes and all the stuff that he has the tools to work with. And in this case, it's a 92, so it's below average. And then how does he use it? It measures things like his pitch mixes, right? Does he throw a fastball, then a curveball, then a slider, then a cutter? Does he throw the ball high? Does he throw the ball low? Where does he place the ball? Location's all part of it. WPA. So if he's good at WPA, he's making good pitchers pitches. He's making less hitters pitches, right? So that stuff gets measured. So what's interesting is you can see what I call a pitcher who's pitching up, right? So if they don't have good stuff, they still can pitch effectively if they pitch up to the strength of how they use their arsenal. And this is where you can see it. So Hendricks, 92, below average pitcher plus. So he's not got the greatest stuff in the world. A 100 pitcher plus. So he's pitching up to as good as a normal everyday major league pitcher. So I like that. I like that functionality to sit there and go, yep, that's why he's a veteran, he's been around the block a little bit. And he's going to face the Marlins today. But the Marlins, they go through phases where they can hit and then where they can't hit, where they can hit, where they can't hit. And right now, offensively, the Marlins are scoring 3.5 runs a game. That's not very good. But offensively, they rank 12th. And they're only minus 3% to an average offense. So their issue is that they don't have a lot of guys hitting, but they don't have a lot of guys pulling away either. They got a lot of guys that are just kind of meandering around. Nobody's really driving the bus for the Marlins. So it's kind of one of those, okay, well, let's more flip a coin, but I still think it's a valuable spot where you have a veteran pitcher going against a guy in Meyer that's really struggling. I mean, when you got a guy that's 184 SOPS plus, he's not controlling anything. It's almost 2 guys per inning on base and almost 3 home runs per 9. I think that it's worth a shot if you want to. I didn't bet it, and the reason I didn't bet it is because I have 5 other bets. I didn't want to bet 6, 7, 8 bets. Cleveland is another spot I think is an interesting spot, right? Cleveland plays Texas tonight, and you have Bybee, and Bybee is going against Eovaldi, and that in itself is a pretty good matchup. But I bet you didn't know this. Of all the pitchers that are pitching today, Tanner Bybee has won the most games, his team. He's pitched 24 times. They've won 18 times when he's pitched. 18. They're 18-6. Okay, I'm only looking one way. I don't care how good Eovaldi is. I'm only going to look one way. If there's a guy that's 18-6, how am I going to bet against that? I want to bet with that. I don't want to bet against it. Certainly, it could be his day to lose, but looking at numbers, I don't think so. So then I'm starting to look at it, and I'm going, oh, well, look at this. Over the last 28 days, Eovaldi's a 112 SOPS plus, 12% worse than an average pitcher, 12%. So you're starting to get a little bit worse than just average, right? He's a little worse than average. And Bybee, 81. So he's 19% better than an average pitcher, which makes sense. I mean, if you're 18-6, you got to be pretty good. So he is controlling the opponent's offense. Oh, and get this, right? The Texas Rangers, they can't hit. They're minus 15% against right-handed pitchers. Minus 15%. However, the Cleveland Guardians are minus 22% against right-handed pitchers. So neither one of these teams can score. So you're almost in a dilemma here. So Bybee's the better pitcher by SOPS plus standards. And then when you flip this back over and you go and say, well, let's look at the pitchers for another second. Bybee's got average. He's got average metrics: 3.80 xFIP, 3.79 Sierra. That's just average. Well, we just said that Eovaldi was 112, 12% worse than an average pitcher at controlling the opponent's offense. That doesn't really match to his metrics. So metric-wise, Eovaldi's a 2.76 and a 3.0. That's top 25%. So that tells me there's something off here. And I need to go look at WPA because there's a reason why he's not controlling the offense if his stuff has been good. And then I swing it over, and there it is. He's a minus 0.27 WPA. That means he's making more mistakes right now than he normally does, because normally for the whole season, he's a plus 0.87. Currently, over his last 28 days, last 30 days, he's a minus 27. So he's going through this phase where he's making more mistakes right now, putting balls in there where they can hit him. And that's why he's getting beat. Or I shouldn't say beat. That's why his numbers reflect that he's not controlling the opponent's offense. And then when you look at Bybee's a plus 51. So he's got average metrics, but he's not missing where he's not making mistakes. So those numbers actually then sort of have an effect that go down. They get better. So whereas Eovaldi's kind of getting worse in metrics, Bybee's getting better in metrics because of where they're putting the ball. It's an interesting way to look at different things. And Bybee's a 104 pitcher plus, right? So we just said it. We talked about Hendricks being a 100, and that was good. And, because he was a 92 and pitching up. It's hard. I mean, it's really hard to pitch up when you have good stuff. Well, Bybee's stuff is only graded at 94, but he's got a 104 pitcher plus. So he's pitching way up. He's really a good pitcher. And when you look at Evaldi's a 99, so he's got way better stuff than what Bybee does. But he's a 101, so he's pitching up, but he's not pitching the same way. So there is an edge to Cleveland on the mound. Bybee's a better pitcher than Evaldi is. Now Evaldi's a bulldog, but if you watch Bybee, Bybee is that way too. He is a guy, and I'm trying to look, there he is. You can tell a little bit of it walk rate because they don't give in. Neither one. They don't walk them, so they'll throw the ball in there, but they make good pitches. Bybee's walk rate is in the top 25% of baseball, and so is Evaldi. Both of them. They're really good there. Evaldi's giving up home runs. He's in the top 25% to the bad. So you have some issues there. And then on offense, neither team's any good. So when you start to look at the offense, Texas is minus 39% to an average offense. Cleveland's minus 51. These are two of the bottom barrel offenses right now. Cleveland is scoring 2.3 runs a game. They've scored 14 runs in the last 6 games. Texas, they're scoring 2.7 runs a game. They've only scored 16 runs in the last 6 games, and they rank 28th. So you got the 28th ranked offense in Texas and the 30th ranked offense in Cleveland. So then you go and say, well, holy shit, neither one of these teams are going to score any runs. And I get it because you got 2 good pitchers out there, but the total is like a 7. So I don't like to bet under 7 very often. You know, I don't mind 7.5, get under 7.5, but 7's a different number. So I start thinking about, okay, what do we have going on here? And then I remembered. I shouldn't say remembered. That's the wrong word. I already know. But the Cleveland bullpen is one of the best bullpens in baseball. If not, they are the best bullpen over the season. They're the best bullpen in baseball. And currently, where are they? They've pitched 47 innings, only allowed 28 hits. They've only allowed 3 home runs, only 19 walks. They're really good, and Texas doesn't match up in that end. So you have to kind of look at it and go, what's of value and what isn't. And when you go in and you say, hey, the line in this game, where is it? There it is. Cleveland's minus 138, 139. I think that they're the right side, especially at home. They're the division leaders right now. They need to win this game. Texas doesn't. You know, Texas has been struggling, but Cleveland's been struggling. You know, they didn't play the Yankees very good. This isn't the Yankees they're facing. So I think there's. Let me see, what was my number in this game? I have Cleveland at 141, and that's kind of where they're at. So value's kind of going away. But I think Cleveland's probably the right side here, but we'll see. They got a big bullpen edge. But a game I did bet that starts here in a minute. I bet on the Arizona Diamondbacks tonight against Boston, and there's a reason. And my number in this game, I have Boston at minus 107. Boston minus 107. So that means, you know, the way my numbers work, it's plus 107 for Arizona, not minus 103. But the line in this game, where's Arizona, Boston right now, is 117 or 121. So let's just say it's 120. So you got Boston minus 120. And I get it. It's Bellow at home. It's the Red Sox at home. You know, the Red Sox are in 3rd place in the East. In the National League West, Arizona is 2nd. And I have Boston slightly better as a team than where Arizona is. But I don't have this pitcher nearly as good as what Nelson is. Remember, we just talked about that in the Open today. Nelson is pitching against Bellow, and that's where your issue comes into play. If I can get him over here real fast. So Nelson, I told you that at the beginning of the season, he was sort of an afterthought pitcher. Well, he's their best pitcher right now. And in the last 28 days, his SOPS plus is 47. 47. That means he's 53% better than an average pitcher. Nobody, well, there's one person. Sears has pitched pretty good. But Nelson, that's the second best pitcher out of the 30 pitchers today. Second best. And Bellows a 92, so right around average. So think about it. You got an average pitcher against like the best pitcher. So that means a lot. Secondly, the Arizona Diamondbacks against right-handed pitchers are 49% better than an average offense over the last 45 days. They've been really good. Boston's been good too, but not that good. They're 21%. So now you need and must have great pitching to control these offenses. So A, you have that in Arizona. B, you have an average pitcher for Boston. So then I started looking at it from a different perspective, and I'm like, where's Bellow? Bellow's been good at times, but he's not good at home. He's a 131 SOPS plus at home, 31% worse than an average pitcher at home. That's not good when you're facing this lineup. And then I switched it over here to where we look at pitchers. Nelson metrics, top 25% of baseball. Bellow average. Where Bellow runs into problems, he walks guys. 4.8 walks per 9 innings, so he's putting guys on base, and he's 1.29 home run rate. That's not in the worst 25% of baseball, but it's getting close. He's above 50% there. And then when I kind of looked at this, over the last 7 games, Nelson is at game score 63.6. If you're at 60 or 59 or at 61, that's the best pitchers in baseball. Aces, those are aces that throw that way. He's throwing like an ace. He's the best pitcher the Diamondbacks have. And when you look at where Bellow is, he's a 51.9 in his last 7 starts. Okay, well, that's good. 50's average, so he's slightly better than an average pitcher, right? So that's what you have. You have Bellow being a slightly better pitcher than average against a really good pitcher and against a lineup that's hitting. And when you switch over and you go, hey, how are the Diamondbacks doing? In the last 20 games, they're 15-5. 15-5. They're moving out. Like they're making a move. And you want to be riding on teams like that. Bellow is 11-9. Or not Bellow. The Red Sox are 11-9 in the last 20 games. So a little bit 500-ish, a little bit above, but that's not bad because there's a lot of teams that are 9-11 or 10-10. So 11-9 is not terrible, but it's certainly not winning 3 out of every 4 you're playing. So I like that. Offensively, I think that Boston right now, over the last 7 days, they rank 4th, and they rank 4th in isolated power. So you need a pitcher that's going to pitch well. Nelson's the guy. And then you look at where Arizona is. They're 11th in isolated power. They're even when it comes, minus 1% when it comes to weighted runs created plus. But what was cool is they got 4 guys in their lineup that are 1 WAR or above, and they're doing fine. When it comes to that, 3 of those 4 guys are over 2 WAR, so 3 guys driving the bus for them. So I like the idea that you're actually getting them as an underdog today, and you're getting them in value as an underdog. My number in the game was plus 107, and you can get them. You can get them at what did we say it was plus 110. Plus 110, plus 107, plus 111, whatever you can get it at. So I liked Arizona in this game, so I bet that one. And I'm trying to get another one into you right before it goes off. This is Atlanta, and Atlanta is playing the Nationals today, and you got a pitching mismatch. But this is on. You got to play them on the run line, or you don't have to play them on the run line. But I think there's value on the run line. My number was minus 1.5, minus 113. So I played Atlanta, Sale, and projected WAR. Sale's a 6. He's the only pitcher in Major League Baseball that's that high. There are a couple guys in the 5 range, but nobody's at a 6 other than him. So theoretically, theoretically, he's the best pitcher in baseball right now. And he's going to pitch against the Nationals. And the Nationals are throwing Mackenzie Gore. And at the beginning of the season, I would have been real high on Mackenzie Gore. And in fact, Mackenzie Gore pitched against Atlanta at the beginning part of this season. He threw a great game. He hasn't thrown a great game in 2 months. So when you go back and you go, well, where are we at with this game? I go over here. Where's Atlanta? There they are. Atlanta is 7th in offense. And man, I'm telling you, Marcelo Zuna is the guy that's been carrying their offense all season. His shoulders have got to be huge. His legs have to be big as I don't know what they are anymore because of all the weight he's carrying. And I bet his back hurts, right? I mean, he's been carrying that whole offense the whole time, the entire season. And again, he's leading the way, 5.6 offensive WAR. I mean, the guy is just a stud, that guy. But they're ranked 7th. They're scoring 4 runs a game, and Washington is ranked 10th, so it's not too far off. They're 7% in Washington, better than an average offense, and Atlanta's 20. But the difference is he's got a left-handed pitcher on the mound in Sale, and Sale's really good. And the guys that are leading the way for Washington are left-handed hitters, Wood and Garcia Jr. I don't really know Tana, but he must be a call-up guy. And then when I'm looking at kind of where these guys are, Mackenzie Gore is a 169 SOPS plus. So he's basically 70% worse than an average pitcher. Holy shit, 70% worse than an average pitcher, and you're facing a number 1? That's a gap. That's a big gap. So that automatically starts me to go, okay, I don't expect Washington to score a whole lot of runs, and I do expect Atlanta to be able to hit the ball. So let's look at balls in play and stuff like that. And by the way, the Mackenzie Gore is left-handed, and the Atlanta Braves have played left-handed pitching 37 times. They've won 24. They're 24-13 against left-handed pitching. They are 22% better than an average offense against left-handed pitching. So that fits a spot here where, an itch that, the Atlanta likes. And then when I'm looking at the pitchers over here and I go down here and I go, there they are. Chris Sale, 2.11, 2.39 xFIP in Sierra. Guess what his FIP is? 1.40. Holy shit. 1.40? Are you kidding me? He has got the best metrics on the board today. He's got the best everything on the 13.79 strikeouts per 9 innings from Chris Sale. There's no balls in play going back for Washington. He's striking everybody out. He's certainly not walking them, and he doesn't give up the home runs. So good luck, right? I mean, that's the way it is. Good luck. And then on the other side, you got Mackenzie Gore, 5.04 xFIP, 5.52 Sierra, 5.49 FIP. So you're talking 3 runs difference right there. 3. And then if you swing it out and you go, well, what's Gore's problem? Well, first thing is he can't strike anybody out. 6.48 strikeout rate. That's 25% worst in Major League Baseball. So again, balls in play edge, right? If you're not striking them out, they're hitting them. So balls in play, Atlanta. And then walk rate, 4.68. So not only are you hitting balls, you're getting put on base. And then home run rate, 1.44. Okay. It's not the worst 25% in baseball, but it's close, right? So he's given up the home runs, 2.08 guys on base per 9 innings against the guy who doesn't give up anything. So there you kind of have it, right? That's the gaps you're looking for, especially when you want to kind of go and say, hey, I think the run line's pretty good here. My score, where's my score predictor in this game? Atlanta. I have Atlanta with 6 runs and Washington with 3.5. So, can they score more than 6? Maybe. Hopefully they get to 6. If they get to 6, I think we win this game. So I like it. Can Washington not score 3.5 runs? Yeah. Chris Sale can shut him down to 2. Maybe he shuts him down to 1. So that's where I think you have value in this play. So I like Atlanta in that spot. There's a game that goes at 8 o'clock today too. That's a similar spot. This is Detroit against the hapless White Sox. And, Montero's pitching for Detroit, and he sucks. I shouldn't say that. He's an average to below average pitcher. I think his projected WAR number is minus 0.1 or minus 0.2. But he's facing Flexen today. And I think we talk about this almost every time Flexen pitches. He's made 24 starts, which is unbelievable in itself that he's made 24 starts. And everybody wants to talk about how bad Patrick Corbin is, and everybody wants to go, hey, it's Patrick Corbin Day and all that stuff. Patrick Corbin is way, way better than Chris Flexen, like way better. Chris Flexen made 24 starts. He's won twice. The White Sox have won twice in 24 starts, 2 and 22. That's not very good. 24 starts and you win twice. So 2 and 22. That's not very good. So then you start to swing it out and go, well, where's the issues? That's OPS plus 167, 67% worse at controlling the opponent's offense. Now, I will say Montero is a 121. So it's 21% worse than an average pitcher. But it gets a little better for him. So here's kind of where you run into some of the problems. The White Sox are the worst hitting team in baseball. They're minus 25% against right-handed pitching. They're 24 and 77. Holy shit. 24 and 77 against right-handed pitchers. All right. Well, that's just awful. And Detroit's more 500-ish, 49 and 54. So they're closer. And Detroit's kind of a 500-ish team. And the White Sox, at this point, I don't know if they're going to win 45 games. Maybe they win 44. Maybe they win 43. I don't know. Think about that. If they win 42 games, they're going to lose 120. Oh, my God, that's terrible. So they're one of the worst teams ever. And they got one of the worst pitchers ever. So you've got starting pitchers. This is where things are interesting. Montero is a 405, 425. That's his metrics. That's average. He's got average metrics, average strikeouts, average walks. He does give up 1.61 home runs. So that's the worst 25% of baseball. So his whip rate's 1.21, batting average against 240, all average. He's basically an average pitcher. So theoretically, if I looked, his game score over the last 7 games, 47.7. 50 is average. So he's just a little bit below average. So I'm looking at Flexen 6.41. Oh, my God. 6.41 xFIP, 6.1 Sierra, 4.94 FIP, strikeout rate 4.43. He don't strike out anybody. So balls in play, certainly, Detroit. 4.43 walk rate, so he puts guys on base. Batting average against 359. Holy shit, 359, and his whip rate is 211. So Detroit's going to have guys on base. I mean, Detroit's going to have guys on base, and the White Sox, they probably could have guys on base, but they got to hit. And when you look at the offense and you say, White Sox, can you hit? They're 29th in baseball, minus 46% to an average offense. The White Sox are scoring 2.7 runs a game. They have one guy who's hitting right now, and that's Luis Robert. Now, one guy that's over 1 offensive WAR, and it's Luis Robert. 7 guys that are minus 1 offensive WAR or worse. 7. There's only 9 guys in the lineup, so 7 of the 9 guys are pulling the offense down. Okay, give me Detroit. Give me them to win by more than 1, and that's minus 1.5 plus 100 was the number that I got. So I'm like, that's value. my numbers came out, my score predictor, and it's based off of hits and hits allowed and walks and stuff. So basically, it takes opportunities and then comes up with the score. And it says Detroit 7.5 runs, White Sox 3.5 runs. I agree. I'm going White Sox. I'm going Detroit minus the 1.5. And then kind of there's two other spots, maybe three other spots I want to talk about. But we'll talk about it. These are bets that I made, right? So I bet on them. And I said at the beginning of the show, I bet on Seattle. And here's why. Seattle plays San Francisco tonight. And we can talk all bad about Seattle's offense, but Seattle's offense ranks 14th right now, 14th. And we talked about some of these teams scoring 2.7 runs. We said Cleveland scoring 2.3, 2.7. Well, Seattle's scoring 3.7 runs a game, so they're at least hitting the ball a little bit, getting on base and scoring some. And then they got three guys that are doing it. And we talked about the new structure of their lineup, and we said, hey, Raley wasn't that bad. Well, Raley's their number one guy on offense right now, 2.2 offensive WAR. Polanco's hitting the ball, and he's still in the lineup. He's batting fifth, and Rivas is at the bottom, so he's doing pretty. So they got guys in the first spot, in the middle of the lineup, and at the end, and then you get Edgar Martinez in there to try to help him. I don't know what he's going to do in the first days there, but you get this new momentum kind of feel, new positive vibe, new energy. Maybe things can shape up for them pretty quick. And they're facing a team in San Francisco who is actually performing worse than Seattle on offense. They're scoring 3-point runs a game. They rank 22nd. Where they're there. They rank 18th in offensive WAR, and Seattle was 14th. So it's not. And they only got two guys doing any good, and neither one of them are over 2 offensive WAR. So nobody driving the bus for them. So then you go and say, hey, starting pitchers, what's going on over there? And that's where things get out of hand. So you have Castillo for the Mariners, and he had a rough start. But what he's done is he's turned into a super good home pitcher. He does really good in Seattle. He's at home, he's a 77, so he's 23% better than an average pitcher at home. He's facing Birdsong, who over his last 28 starts is a 141. So he's 41% worse than an average pitcher at controlling the opponent's offense. So that gives Seattle opportunity. And then you start to look at it and go, oh, he's 122 on the road. That's not good. But what was interesting is Birdsong's pitched enough that he's pitched some day games. And I don't know, some of these guys that you have a harder time, the hitters, during the day and night and picking up the ball. And it must be the case for Birdsong, because during the daytime, he's an 82 SOPS plus, 18% better than an average pitcher. But at night, he sucks. That ball must have a light on it. So it comes out of his hand, and they see it, and they can see it spin. They know where it's going, because he's a 164, 64% worse than average pitcher at night. And maybe that's just not enough yet to go on to kind of give it that. But at the same time, when there's a dynamic that's that wide of a margin, that does mean something. And I'm going to use that to my advantage tonight with that part of the process. The other interesting thing is Seattle versus right-handed pitchers over the last, say, 30, 40 days, 45 days. They're 14% better than average offense. Weighted runs created plus, they're 114. That's pretty good. So that means they're doing terrible against left-handed pitchers. But right-handed pitchers, that's not terrible. And when you look at where San Francisco is, they're minus 6%. So that's kind of worse than average, but not by much. But the difference kind of in this game is, I think you have Castillo, who's great at home against an average to below average offense that's not hitting. And you got all this momentum, whether it's hype or whatever, for Seattle for tonight. And Castillo is in the top 25% in metrics, 3.30 xFIP, 3.29 Sierra. Strikeout rate is 10.74. So balls in play edge goes to Seattle. he's not giving up the home runs. He's not walking the guys, and that's the problem with Birdsong. Birdsong, 5.63 walk rate. He's a big strikeout guy, but 5.63 walk rate. He's putting guys on base. 2.25 home runs per 9 innings. 1.63 whip rate, and he's minus 0.45 WPA. So he's making lots of mistakes. If Seattle can stay, I don't want to say it that way. If Seattle can be in the zone and hit the right pitches and be patient enough, they're going to get the ones to hit. They should be able to be okay. If they're chasing and doing crazy, stupid stuff like they have been the whole season, then Birdsong maybe has a chance. But I like the idea that you have a better pitcher in Castillo. You have momentum. My number in the game is way higher than the 140 or whatever it was. Where is it? Where's the game? There it is. It's now 150, 155. My number in the game, when I bet him at minus 142, and I got my number is Seattle minus 196. So I would say if you can stay within around the 150 range, I think you're okay with that. So those were the bets I made. Now I think you have value in Waka and the Royals tonight too. I heard the show that was on before me talk about a first 5 with Waka. This is what I'll tell you. The Royals offense is better. The Royals offense is better than the Philly offense right now. And I don't want to be like a guy going out here and say, well, don't do this because of this. But here's what I want to say is when you have the Kansas City Royals ranked second in offense, they're scoring 6.8 runs a game. You want that offense to bat as many times as you can get them to bat. So if you do a first 5, you're taking the bat away. And they're facing T1 Walker. So Walker's not got the greatest of stuff, and balls are going to be in play. The Royals aren't going to go up there and strike out all the time. They're going to hit the ball. So you want their offense to hit. So if you play this game, play it full game. Don't play it first 5. The reason you want to play first 5 games is if you don't have a good bullpen, you don't have a good closer, and you want to stay away from the idea that your bullpen gives up the runs and you don't score. And B is if you have a better pitcher, but your offense is kind of average, and you're facing a team that has kind of a bad pitcher but has a better offense than yours, you don't want to bang your offense against a better offense. So only play in the first 5 innings, right? So you want to kind of look at it from those kind of perspective or rules around first 5 games. So anyway, I think there's value with Waka tonight. My only concern with Waka is he's pitched a lot of good games. He's where is I go over here? There you go. Michael Waka. So his last start was a game score 74. His last 3 starts is a game score 61. For the season, he's a 54. So he's a little bit over his skis right now, meaning that there's regression coming. But they're facing Philadelphia, and Philadelphia, to be honest, they can't hit. The offense for Philadelphia right now, they're 26th in the last 7 days in offense, 28th in isolated power. They're 39% worse than an average offense. Zero hitters at 1 WAR or better. They got 4 guys pulling away. So this is not a team that you want to back, the Phillies, especially on offense. They're scored 8. So here's a big difference, right? Both teams have played 6 games in the last 7 days. And I get it that the teams play different opponents, but the offense for Kansas City has scored 41 runs in 6 games. The offense for Philadelphia has played and has scored 18 runs in 6 games. So huge difference there. And that does carry over. So I look at that and go, yeah, you got an edge, you got a big offensive edge, but if you play it, you really want to play this full game because the Philly bullpen's not been any good either. They can't get anybody out when the bullpens come into play. Philadelphia, 35 innings, 39 hits, 7 home runs. That's not good. So anytime you have more hits than you do innings pitched, they're not getting outs out of the back end. And then the other side of it is, Kansas City's bullpen hasn't been any good either. 33 innings, 39 hits, but they're not giving up as many home runs, only 5. But I did think there was value there, and an interesting spot that I thought. I don't know what everybody's kind of doing with the Oakland A's, but the Oakland A's they found some things, and over the last. Let me pull this up for a second. Over the last 20 games, situational, the Oakland A's are 11-9, and now they're playing Milwaukee today. And everybody comes out and Savali's pitching for Milwaukee, and he's not very good, but he's a veteran. He's been around the block. He's done a lot of things. He's pitched for Cleveland. Then he went and pitched for Tampa Bay. He's been in a playoff hunt a little bit. He's pitched in some bigger games. Oakland is pitching J.P. Sears. J.P. Sears, and I don't know if you guys know this, but J.P. Sears, SOPS plus of all the pitchers today, is the best. He's the best. He's a 34. 34. So he is 66% better than an average pitcher at controlling the opponent's offense. Now, I'm going to put a caveat note to that. And the reason is not that I don't trust him, but we just talked about it for Waka. Sears' last start was a game score 71. His last 3 starts is a 68. For his last 7 starts, it's a 59. So his last 7 starts, he's pitching like an ace, like holy shit, 59. For the season, he's a 51. So this is what happens. Guys will have stretches where they're really good. But, it just gradually starts to build up where they were for the average because he's made, so many starts in the season. I think he's 12-12. Let me look. 12-13. He's 12-13 on the season, which is pretty good for a team, Oakland. He hasn't won that many games. He's 12-13. But he has average metrics. But to be honest, he hasn't had a bad start in like 5 starts. Now, in the last 7, he's had 2 bad starts. So you sit there and you go, how long before the regression monster gets him? And I kind of look at this and sometimes go, well, if he's facing a team that can hit, the regression monster could be tonight. But Milwaukee on offense right now, they just played a terrible series, or in my opinion, they played a terrible series against St. Louis. They should have beat St. Louis right and left, but they didn't. They didn't hit yesterday. They are minus 20% to an average offense, 22. They rank 22, but Oakland ranks 27th. So you're going to need J.P. Sears to be awesome in this game. And if you think he is, then I think there's value there. My number, because of what he's turned into and where they are, I have my odds are Milwaukee minus 115, and I think people have come in and if I remember looking at this, it's minus 106, minus 109. So it's kind of pick-em-ish towards Milwaukee. So my thoughts are, a lot of times when you start to see stuff like this, you get a line that's moving but goes too far in one direction. So if you can get, and I don't know if you can or not, I don't know what your book shows, but if you can get, say, Milwaukee at plus 100 or anything below minus 105, I think there's more value in the Milwaukee side than there is in the Oakland side, even though Oakland's been pretty good and Sears is pitching for them. I just think Sears is regression ripe. I know Savali, is Savali, and he doesn't go out there with the greatest stuff in the world. But I do think there's value in the Milwaukee side. So anyway, let's have a night, man. Look, I just went over a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of plays. We didn't get any engagement really today. Nobody's saying hello. Nobody's talking to us much tonight, and that's okay. But that's kind of what we want to do. We want to get some engagement. We want to get some stuff going on. Yeah, follow me on Twitter, right? I mean, Webby20MLB. We got almost 100 people on here again. So, the site's really growing. The show's doing very, very well. Go to the website, sign up. It's $100. And you can get all the information. You can get the football plays as they start coming out. Football, let's say Friday. We got football games tomorrow. So we'll keep doing baseball shows. I still do baseball every day. We'll be doing football as well. Don't miss out on that stuff, guys. It's $100. You get football, baseball, you get everything. Just go to the website, mlb-daily.com, click up at the top, and sign up. And then, once we get to a point where we can get, a couple hundred people on here every night, which we were getting there for a little while, it's starting to slow down some. But once we can get back to 200, 300, 400 people on here every single time, we can sell some advertising and get some sponsorships. And then all of a sudden, we're going to be doing all kinds of slides and crazy stuff, and a lot better than me just up here explaining stuff, talking, because you can see it in a lot better way. So anyway, guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of it. And today's Friday, so tomorrow is Saturday. The idea is I'll be on at noon tomorrow. There's a football game tomorrow, but I'm not going to break down the football game just because there's only a couple of week 0 NCAA games. If I come across something NFL related regarding the preseason games, we can do some of that. But it's going to mostly be baseball. So I'll be on at noon tomorrow. Plan is as the season starts to shift and we start having regular week 1 college football, I'll probably be on around 10:30 so that we can talk some college football and then throw on baseball at the end. It's kind of how that'll go on Saturday and NFL on Sunday, and then break down baseball and do different things throughout the week. It'll just be fun. So good times to come. Let's have a great night. Let's win some bets. Remember, like the shows, retweet the shows, make comments, make suggestions, do all that stuff, because it really helps. It really does. It gets the word out, gets people to follow, and that's what we're looking for. I don't personally care if I have 10,000 followers or 5,000 followers or whatever. The idea is to be able to get the stuff out. But it helps if you do all of those functions, and we go from there. So guys, thanks a lot, and let's have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow around noon.